Are there any other questions? I know that there were quite a bit on here as well. Just, I know one was how I found out about Sean's passing, and that I don't mind to answer. Of course, I was here with Ty. Sean was working nights, so I wanted to spend time with Sean during the day and come to the hospital at night, which of course is quieter up here. The nurses are a lot of fun at night, kind of let loose, and you can hang out with them, become more like one of them, one of the staff here. And he and I were looking at homes a little closer to Haley County because we knew that Ty would be in the hospital for quite some time. We wanted to be closer to him and to where he worked, but yet keep our home in Cherokee, if we could at all possible. And he had been driving around looking at homes, and the last thing he had said to me were he mentioned the homes that he wanted to take me to. And so I kept texting him. He said, text me as soon as you get to the hospital, let me know how Ty's doing. Sent him text messages, kept sending him another and another, and he never replied. And of course, me being the worrisome wife I always was, started to worry a little bit, but I truly just believed that he was busy and he would get back to me. And I had received a phone call from a close friend of ours who was also a trooper, and I thought, he left a voicemail message. He never leaves a message on my voicemail. I thought that he was probably just calling to check on Ty because we were supposed to be at their wedding the weekend before in Florida, but Ty decided to come early. And so I had assumed that since he was back in town, he was wanting to know how Ty was doing. And I took my time getting up and checking my phone because you can't answer the phone when you're in the NICU, and got the voicemail that said, Michaela, honey, call me back. And I thought, Sean's wrecked his car again, because he had totaled his car a couple months before he passed away, and that was an extremely scary situation, but yet a realization of how dangerous his job can be. And so I, of course, immediately called him back, and he asked me where I was at, and I told him I was in the NICU, and he said, well, just hear what I have to say first. He said, Sean is downstairs in the emergency room, and he has been shot. And he said he has been shot in the shoulder. He will be okay. And that was what everyone was saying, though. It wasn't just the trooper who had called me. Everyone in the emergency room, the other troopers, we were all to the understanding that he would be okay. But, of course, just being absolutely terrified, I dropped to my knees in the middle of the NICU and was screaming at the top of my lungs and, of course, crying. And finally, after the nurses peeled me off the floor, one of the respiratory therapists took me down to the emergency room, and I was not even allowed in because they were on lockdown. But yet, the whole time, even as scared as I was and shook up and just terrified, I expected him to be sitting up with his arm bandaged and being like, hey, I got shot, but I'm okay. And he always managed to find something good out of every situation. And they wouldn't let me into the emergency room at all because it was on lockdown. And luckily, a trooper and an Asheville police officer came out and got me and took me back so that I could at least be by the room to see, to be there with the other troopers and with Sean. And I was unable, unfortunately, to see him before he left. And until they came out to tell me that he was no longer with us, I was still to the understanding that he would really and truly be okay. And unfortunately, that wasn't the situation. And it just really pains me that I'm here without Sean in everything that we're trying to go through with Ty, because I know Ty could really use his dad, and I'm sure he could find a lot of strength in Sean with Sean being here. And I know Sean had always wanted to be a father, and he was so excited to be a dad. He actually opened up his eyes on Father's Day for the first time, and Sean could not wait to see his eyes open. And I just really wish he was here to experience all this with me.